A major overseas deal worth $300 million is just around the corner, and there's no time left. Sweat trickled down my forehead as I stared at the ticking clock. In front of the meeting room on the top floor of our major client's headquarters, the situation had suddenly taken a sharp turn. Lily, the sales manager, known for her usual composed demeanor, was visibly flustered. The interpreter fell ill, suddenly? Yes, Michael was fine until this morning, but now he has a high fever. The interpreter, who was supposed to handle the massive $300 million deal, was now unavailable. As soon as this news broke, the atmosphere in the room became tense. But English. I might be able to handle it. I, the CEO's personal driver, raised my hand. If it's okay, I can give it a shot. Just as I said this, the meeting room door opened. The executives of the client company appeared. There's no time left. That's right. I almost forgot that you. Lily seemed to remember something and grabbed my hand. In this sudden twist of events, my unexpected appearance as a mere driver would lead to an outcome no one could have foreseen. My name is Sam, 32 years old. Tomorrow, I have a job interview that could change my life. For now, I juggle late-night shifts at a convenience store and dispatch duties for a taxi service, scraping together money for my mother's medical bills. Though my resume is filled with titles unworthy of writing down, I didn't have the luxury of choice. Tomorrow's interview is a rare chance I managed to secure. If I land the job, I'll finally have stable income to cover my mother's treatments. I might even escape the endless cycle of part-time work. Picking up my freshly cleaned suit from the dry cleaners, I jogged through the bustling streets at dusk, preparing for tomorrow. That's when I heard a woman's voice ahead. Hey! Stop following me! Turning toward the sound, I saw a woman in a suit surrounded by several men in front of a high-end boutique. Her long black hair swayed as she clutched what appeared to be a designer bag close to her chest. Come on, don't be like that. Just join us for a drink. I know a great spot nearby. My treat. Clearly intoxicated, the men had encircled her. Normally, I avoid getting involved in these kinds of disputes, especially with tomorrow's interview in mind. But, excuse me. Before I realized it, my feet had carried me toward the woman. Lily, I've been looking for you. I stood beside her naturally, giving a slight bow. The drunk men looked at me with puzzled expressions. Oh? So, what are you? Her boyfriend or something? I'm her brother, is there an issue? I kept my tone polite, yet firm. The woman quickly caught on to my intent and joined my act seamlessly. Sorry, big brother. I got bored waiting for you and wandered around. She lightly placed her hand on my arm, her expression one of relief. Her quick adaptability impressed me. Oh, seriously? What a buzzkill. The men, looking disappointed, reluctantly left. We stood there until they disappeared from sight. Thank you very much. Once the men were completely out of sight, she let go of my arm and bowed deeply. Her profile, illuminated by the streetlights, was far more striking than I had imagined, and I found myself momentarily captivated. May I thank you properly somehow? She gestured toward the high-end boutique nearby as she spoke. This area was indeed lined with upscale shops, all well beyond my price range. No, it's really not worth mentioning my name, I replied, waving her offer off lightly. With tomorrow's interview on my mind, I couldn't afford to linger here any longer. But, excuse me, I have plans after this. Please take care. I cut her off politely, turned my back, and walked away. I could feel her gaze following me, but I didn't look back, striding away quickly. The next morning. Sam? This way, please. After waiting about 10 minutes since giving my name at reception, a female employee from what appeared to be the General Affairs Department appeared. This was the headquarters of the Anderson Group, a company with a 70-year history. It was one of Japan's leading conglomerates, boasting annual revenues exceeding $10 billion, with operations spanning electronics, chemicals, construction, and more. They also managed large-scale international deals with offices worldwide. The position I was applying for was as a driver in their vehicle department. Escorted to the top floor of the high-rise building where the meeting room was located, I couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. As I waited in the reception room, the door opened. In that moment, my eyes widened. Ah! A small sound of surprise escaped me. The woman I had helped in the downtown district last night was standing there. Next to the CEO, Mr. Anderson, she looked at me with the same shocked expression. "Oh, Lily, do you know each other?" Mr. Anderson asked curiously, glancing at his daughter. She looked momentarily flustered but quickly composed herself. "No, this is our first meeting." Following her lead, I responded, "Yes, it's a pleasure to meet you." The interview concluded without any issues, and I left the company building. As I stepped outside, there she was, waiting for me. Thank you so much for last night." "Not at all. You really are the person from last night, aren't you?" "I'm surprised." Glancing around cautiously, she spoke in a hushed voice. "Could you please not tell my father? I'm actually not allowed to go out at night." Her expression was one of pleading confusion. I tilted my head, puzzled. "Your father? Ah, well. Mr. Anderson is my father. My name is Lily." "Ah, I see. So that's how it is." She must hold a position of some significance. No wonder she had been present during the interview. "Understood." I nodded. "Thank you." "Then, here," she said, pulling out a neatly folded stack of bills from her small handbag. I instinctively stepped back. "What?" "It's hush money. You're quite a remarkable person, so this much is only fair, right? Think of it as my thank you gift as well," Lily said with a beaming smile, extending the bundle of cash as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Her gesture revealed a certain ease, the kind that came from solving everything in life with money. "I don't need it," I said, my voice rising despite myself. She looked at me, surprised. "Why not?" "I just want you to keep quiet about this from my father, and it's a token of gratitude." "You should take it. I don't need money, and there's no reason to report anything to Mr. Anderson in the first place. Besides, I helped you simply because I thought it was the right thing to do. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm not looking for anything in return." "Not looking for anything in return." She clutched her luxury brand wallet to her chest, as though shielding her worldview from my words. "You don't understand. This is about my feelings. Isn't it rude to reject someone's feelings?" Her words stirred something within me. The woman standing before me truly didn't understand. Rude. What's truly rude is trying to reduce someone's kindness to a transaction. I helped you because I wanted to, not because I expected a price tag on it. Why would you try to put a value on that? What? Human emotions can't be bought with money. At least, mine can't. Lily's eyes wavered slightly, but she quickly reverted to a defiant expression. "That's so dramatic. There's nothing in this world that money can't solve. Dreams, talent, opportunities, they're all created by money. Aren't you here, at your age, applying for a driver's position because you're struggling with money?" Her words were spoken like an absolute truth, almost self-righteous. "Money, it certainly has power," I replied, my voice calm but resolute. "But it's a double-edged sword. It can blind people to what really matters, and make them lose sight of what's important. I'll never let myself be enslaved by money again." At that moment, a voice rang out from behind us. "Lily, don't disgrace yourself by having such conversations in public." I turned to see Mr. Anderson standing there. Lily's surprise was evident. "Father." Mr. Anderson let out a sigh. "I heard everything you two said just now." Well, Lily stammered, looking thoroughly flustered. Mr. Anderson fixed her with a stern gaze. "I'm aware of all your actions. There's no point trying to cover it up now." "Yes," Lily replied, her shoulders drooping like a child being scolded by a parent. The haughty air she had moments earlier had vanished entirely. "I'll save the lecture for later." "Sam," Mr. Anderson said, turning to me. His gaze was different now, warmer and more sincere, compared to during the interview. "I'm going to hire you." "What?" both Lily and I exclaimed at the same time. "I want someone like you, a man of integrity." "Integrity is one thing money can't buy." "Thank you so much." That night, for the first time in ages, I slept deeply, feeling a wave of relief that I'd taken the first step toward a new life. Over the following days, I made sure to visit each of my part-time jobs, expressing my gratitude and formally resigning. "So you finally found a place to settle, huh?" Walter, my manager at the convenience store, said, patting me on the back. His words almost brought me to tears. A week passed. Starting today, I would officially begin my new job as the personal driver for Mr. Anderson and his daughter, Lily. To mark the occasion, my first task was to drive Lily, the sales manager, from her home to the company. "Good morning, Sam." "Good morning, ma'am." "I look forward to working with you," I replied, bowing deeply. She let out a light chuckle. "Oh, come on, you don't have to be so formal now." "But it's fine, really." "Relax, okay? We're not that far apart in age, so no need to be so stiff." With that, she settled into the back seat. I nodded, responding with a simple, "understood," and started the car. "Sam." "Yes?" Her voice sounded unusually stiff as she addressed me. I wanted to apologize for what happened the other day for offering you hush money. It was rude of me, and I'm really sorry." Through the rearview mirror, I saw her face, genuine regret evident in her expression. "Please, don't worry about it." "No, I need you to worry about it. I used to think money could solve anything. But after what you said, I've been thinking about it a lot. And I realized I was wrong. It's fine." I might have spoken too harshly as well, I said as the car stopped at a red light. But I was surprised. "When you called me Lily that day, it just so happened to be my real name. What a coincidence. It feels like fate, doesn't it?" "Maybe we were meant to cross paths somehow." "Maybe so," I replied, finding myself smiling back. There was something undeniably serendipitous about our meeting. "Looking forward to working with you." After that, our conversations became more frequent. I exchanged so many words with her that I gradually looked forward to the daily pickup and drop-off times. "Sam, you're such an unusual person," Lily said one day, breaking the comfortable silence. "Why do you think that?" "I'd been thinking about that day. Why don't you care about money as much as most people do?" Anyone else would have accepted the reward without a second thought. Her tone was thoughtful, almost introspective. I hesitated, gazing out the window at the passing scenery, debating whether to share the truth. Finally, I decided to speak. "Actually." I took a deep breath. In the rearview mirror, Lily's gaze reflected a genuine curiosity. "My father used to be a company president too." "Really?" "Yes. He ran a major trading company, and the business was thriving. He was a proud man and would often say, 'You're my son, and I'm proud of you.'" What came to mind was the executive office in a towering skyscraper. My father, seated in a large leather chair, gazing out at the city through the window. And me, standing behind him, looking up at his imposing figure. Following his wishes, I enrolled at Oxford University. He told me, "You'll take over the company someday." so make sure you study hard. He sacrificed so much to give me the best education possible, and I worked hard to meet his expectations. The car stopped at another red light, the hum of the engine filling the pause. But life is unpredictable. One day, my father's company suddenly went bankrupt. He ended up with $50 million in debt. The passing scenery outside the window felt like the fleeting memories of those days. And after that, my father disappeared. All he left behind was the debt and my mother, who had fallen ill. I gripped the steering wheel slightly tighter, the weight of the memories settling heavily in my chest. My job hunt after that was nothing short of hell. My voice trembled slightly. Even now, the memories from that time come back vividly, as raw as ever. With a degree from Oxford and several years of experience at my father's company, I never imagined it would be so difficult. The sight of raindrops trailing down the window mirrored the memories of those difficult times. At first, I was confident. I thought, with my credentials, surely I'll find something. But every response from the companies I applied to was the same. Some even returned my resume directly at the reception desk. By the 10th or so company, I started seeing through the polite rejections to the real reason behind them. Everyone knew. The son of a company president who had fled, leaving behind $50 million in debt. Who would hire someone like that? There were days when I stood in the hospital corridor, staring up at the ceiling, clutching a medical bill I couldn't pay. Nights when I sobbed, staring at my Oxford diploma. Encased in its elegant, expensive frame, the diploma had lost all its value. It had become a shackle. Some companies turned me down, saying I was overqualified. I even considered removing my educational background from my resume. But the resulting gaps only raised more questions. Everything seemed to tighten the noose around my neck. Even walking down the street, I felt like everyone was pointing at me. I feared running into people from my father's former business network. The thought of meeting old colleagues terrified me. The judgmental eyes of the world seemed to follow me wherever I went. My mother's condition worsened day by day, and I couldn't even afford her medication. That went on for months. The hospital sent overdue notices, and the nurses began giving me worried looks. A single $10 bill in my wallet felt like a fragile lifeline. At night, I wandered the city streets, desperately looking for anyone who would hire me. One time, a scout in a shady corner of the city approached me. For a brief moment, I hesitated. But then I thought of my mother's face and held back. I hate my father. Why did he run away? Why did he abandon us? And over time, I began to understand. Understand what? Lily's voice was softer than usual. Money drives people crazy. I used to think having lots of it would bring happiness. But I learned the hard way that having money doesn't guarantee true happiness. My Oxford education and my experience at my father's company, all of it was powerless in the face of financial ruin. When the company collapsed, we lost everything, our wealth, our status, and everything. But losing money also made me realize how much warmth and kindness there is in people. My co-workers at part-time jobs bent over backward to help me. The hospital gave me more time to pay my bills. I was saved by human kindness over and over again. That's why I understand now. Having enough money to live a normal life is all you really need to be happy. You're right. Sam, you have a clear sense of what matters. I didn't understand anything. I'm so sorry. In the rearview mirror, Lily's expression reflected genuine regret. No, actually. Actually? I'm glad I was able to help you that night, Lily. It wasn't about money, but I was just happy to make a difference for someone in need. Sam. That's why I apologize for being so emotional at that time. I didn't do it for the money. I just wanted to help someone who was in trouble. The car was enveloped in a calm, quiet atmosphere. After a while, Lily spoke in a soft voice. I want to change too. What? I want to change the version of me that believed money was everything. I want to be like you, Sam, someone who values people's feelings. Her words made me smile despite myself. But, you know, life without money can be difficult. Huh? Well, because now I'm earning a steady salary and can finally afford my mother's medical bills. I joked without thinking, and Lily chuckled softly. After that, I steadily earned trust as a dedicated personal driver. Sam, you're really attentive, Lily remarked one day. It was after I had planned a route to avoid traffic, ensuring she would get to her next meeting location on time. Thank you. But I'm just doing what I should, I replied modestly, catching her warm smile in the rearview mirror. It's not something everyone does. Paying attention to schedules, weather, traffic, it takes a special kind of talent to be so considerate. Her words brought back memories. Actually, as the car stopped at a red light, I decided to share a story from my past. In the past, my family also had a driver. Oh, that's right, your father was a company president, wasn't he? Yes. His name was Robert, and he was an incredible person. I pictured Robert, always standing tall, with a calm smile. Whenever it looked like rain, he'd make sure to keep an umbrella in the car. He was always ready to adapt to sudden schedule changes. At the time, I thought that was just normal. I gazed out at the passing scenery, my voice tinged with nostalgia. But now, being in his position, I finally understand. Everything he did was out of thoughtfulness and care. My grip on the steering wheel tightened slightly. He checked schedules, watched the weather, researched traffic conditions. Everything was a result of thinking deeply about how to help others. I didn't realize it until I started doing the same work. I see. That's wonderful. Lily's gentle voice filled the car. In the rearview mirror, her expression looked almost proud. People who can recognize those things and use them to grow are remarkable. I think you're amazing. Her words sent a quick surge of warmth through me. Things we take for granted often turn out to be acts of kindness. Realizing that might be part of growing up. She looked out the window, her tone contemplative. And I realized something too. What you said to me that night made me confront my arrogance and my reliance on money to solve everything. No, it's not. I tried to protest, but Lily gently cut me off. It's okay. It's true. But I'm glad I realized it. Now, I want to value people's feelings more. The evening cityscape reflected in the car window. Somehow, the view felt uniquely beautiful. Hey, Sam. Yes? Let me correct something I said earlier. Lily's voice was softer than usual, with a hint of hesitation. What do you mean? When I said, I think you're amazing. Yes? The word think creates distance. Because. She paused for a moment, taking a small breath. You're no longer someone far away to me. Seeing you every day, talking with you, being with you, you've become someone very special to me. It took me a moment to grasp the weight of her words. In the mirror, I saw Lily's cheeks tinted red, glowing in the soft sunset. Or perhaps for another reason entirely. Oh, look, we've arrived. I quickly changed the subject, trying to steady my thoughts. My heart was pounding unusually fast. Yes, thank you, Lily said softly as she got out of the car. I noticed her ears were red, flushed all the way to their tips. As I watched her walk away, I realized my own cheeks were warm too. Could this feeling, this growing affection, be allowed? After all, I was just the personal driver for Mr. Anderson and his daughter, Lily. Our positions, our upbringings, and our lives couldn't be more different. Society would never approve of such a relationship. Even so, whenever I thought of Lily, her gentle demeanor and occasional innocent smiles, I was filled with a mix of longing and happiness. Her kindness wasn't born of money or privilege. It was something pure and genuine, a warmth unique to her as a person. Yet, I couldn't dwell on these thoughts. I needed to focus on my work. I couldn't let my emotions interfere with tomorrow's work. Tomorrow, an important task awaited me. I needed to reset my mind and prepare to face the new day. Today marked a significant event, a $300 million negotiation with Brightfield, a leading British aerospace manufacturer. A company with a 150-year history, Brightfield holds 15% of the global aircraft manufacturing market. Its CEO, Alex Martin, is renowned as a titan of European business. This meeting was about securing exclusive rights to supply a specialized alloy for next-generation aircraft production. With Mr. Anderson and Lily in the car, I gripped the steering wheel carefully, feeling the weight of responsibility. The atmosphere inside the vehicle was more tense than usual. Lily had mentioned that this was one of the largest deals their company had ever pursued. I parked in the underground garage of the hotel where the meeting was to take place. The car was filled with a unique air of anticipation and gravity, reflecting the magnitude of the upcoming negotiation. "I'll be waiting for you in the lobby." After seeing Mr. Anderson and Lily off, I inspected the area around the car. I began checking the car in preparation for their return, even inspecting the tires for any issues. "Sam!" A voice behind me made me freeze. I turned around, and my breath caught in my throat. Robert! His hair was still mostly black, though streaked with gray now, and his posture was as straight and dignified as ever. It was Robert, the driver who had worked for my family back when my father was president. To me, he had been more than just an employee. He was like my second father. After my family's company went bankrupt, I never thought I'd see him again. And yet, here he was. "Yes, it's me. I can't believe I'm seeing you here. I'm just as surprised." "It's really you, Robert." Robert was wearing a suit with the Brightfield Company insignia. It turned out he was now the driver for today's business counterpart. "To think we'd meet again. I'm so glad." I couldn't help but speak with excitement, my voice carrying genuine joy. His warm gaze and gentle smile were just as I remembered. It felt like flipping through an old photo album and finding one of its pictures come to life. "I feel the same." "Sam, how did you end up here?" There was a hint of curiosity and confusion in Robert's voice. Well, I'm working as a driver for this company now," I explained, handing him my business card. Robert glanced at it, his eyes widening slightly in surprise. "A driver?" "Yes, it's a long story, but it's thanks to you, Robert, that I chose this job." "Thanks to me?" "Yes. Watching how you worked up close. I didn't realize it as a child, but now I understand. I see how incredible your work was." The words poured out naturally. I had always wanted to express my gratitude. And now, all those feelings rushed to the surface. "You cheered me up with stories when I was feeling down. You always had warm drinks ready in the car when my father worked late into the night." Each gesture was small, but every one of them showed a thoughtfulness that truly cared for the people you served. "I've come to realize how much I learned from you. And because of that, I can take pride in my work now." "It's all thanks to you, Robert." Speaking with heartfelt sincerity, I noticed Robert looking slightly uncomfortable. "No. Robert trailed off, his words faltering as he averted his gaze. There was an unmistakable unease in his demeanor, a subtle restlessness in his movements. Just then, a Brightfield employee called out for Robert. "Excuse me. I have to go." Robert bowed slightly and headed toward the employee. The reunion was brief, but my heart remained full of excitement and joy. Still, I couldn't help but feel a tinge of concern over Robert's uneasy reaction. At that moment, Lily hurried back toward me, looking flustered. "Sam, we've got a problem." "What happened?" The entire negotiation and contract discussion today are in English, but Michael, the interpreter, suddenly fell ill. We're scrambling to find a replacement, but seeing her panic, I hesitated for a moment before speaking. If you'd like, I could help. Ha! If you're okay with me, I'd be happy to join as a stand-in. Lily's eyes widened in surprise. That's right. Sam, you're an Oxford graduate. You speak English, don't you? Her excitement caught me off guard, but I'd rather be seen as useful than as someone who couldn't contribute. Yes, although I'm not as skilled as a professional interpreter, it might be better than nothing. No, it'll be great. Come on, hurry. Following Lily into the building, I entered the meeting room and opened the door. Wait. Sam? Is that you? The person who turned around called out in surprise. Jack. Standing before me was Jack Davis, a classmate from my Oxford days. Our dorm rooms had been next to each other, and we had spent countless hours together in class and after school. I can't believe we're meeting here. Yeah, what a coincidence. Not since last year's party, right? Exactly. So, you're Brightfield's representative for this deal? That's right. Good to see you again. The sight of Jack's face brought back vivid memories of one particular winter. Late at night in the library. Snow was falling steadily outside the windows. Jack, pale and visibly shaken, had confessed everything to me. My research data for the thesis. I think it's all wrong. There was only 1 month left until the submission deadline. Jack, who had spent a year gathering data, had just realized that his entire method of analysis was fundamentally flawed. He was crushed. It's impossible to finish in time. I'll have to repeat the year. And if that happens, my father will. As someone who carried his family's expectations and consistently ranked among the top of our class, this was the biggest crisis of Jack's life. Don't give up. I'll help you. And so, our battle began that night. We locked ourselves in the library, fully immersed in reanalyzing the data. Thanks to the financial analysis skills I had learned from my father, I was particularly adept at this kind of work. Sacrificing sleep, we worked together to devise a new approach and revalidate the data. Night after night, I encouraged Jack whenever he was on the verge of giving up. You can do this, Jack. I know you can. Jack later told me how much those words had saved him. In the end, his thesis received the highest honors in our department. His innovative analytical method was praised by his professors. Now, Jack stood before me in a well-tailored suit, smiling brightly as he approached. As Jack and I chatted casually in English, both Mr. Anderson and Lily watched us with surprised eyes. You two know each other? Yes. We were university classmates. Our dorm rooms were next to each other, and we were very close. That's reassuring. Mr. Anderson nodded in approval. Sam, I trust you'll handle this well. Can I count on you? Of course, I'll do my best. Today felt like a day of reunions. I met first with Robert and now with my old friend Jack. The serendipity of it all felt like the threads of fate weaving together. With those thoughts in mind, I straightened my back and prepared to fulfill my role as an interpreter. The negotiation progressed smoothly and was nearing its conclusion. Mr. Anderson and Mr. Martin, the CEO of Brightfield, exchanged handshakes with expressions of satisfaction. Through my interpretation, their final words of agreement were communicated. Thanks to your translation, everything went smoothly, Mr. Martin said to me. Beside him, Jack nodded enthusiastically. Sam, your English is still top-notch. Thank you, I replied, slightly embarrassed. As a final check, I reviewed the contract before signing. Wait a second. My eye stopped at a particular section of the document. Well then, shall we finalize the agreement? Just sign here. Please hold on. I interrupted Mr. Martin's words, my eyes glued to a particular section of the contract, which I read over and over again. What is it? Come on, we're on a tight schedule here. Hand over the contract, Mr. Martin said, reaching for the document. But I quickly moved it out of his reach. Mr. Anderson, there's a section that requires closer review. Would it be acceptable to postpone the signing and conduct a detailed examination? Mr. Anderson nodded firmly. Understood. We'll postpone the signing for today. Mr. Martin, I must ask for a re-examination and potential revision of the contract. Mr. Martin looked displeased but reluctantly agreed under the pressure of the situation. The signing was postponed for 1 week. That evening, back at the office, I stared at the contract, letting out a deep sigh. I was certain there was a hidden clause in the document that could lead to unfavorable consequences. However, I lacked definitive proof. If I caused the deal to collapse based solely on suspicion, it could harm the reputation of the Anderson Group. Yet, allowing the deal to proceed as it stood was out of the question. What should I do? Leaning on the desk, lost in thought, my phone suddenly rang. The call came from an unfamiliar number. Hello, this is Sam. Sam. The voice on the other end was one I hadn't heard in years, and it made me catch my breath. Robert. It was Robert, the man who had once been my father's driver. To hear from him now, of all times. I need to talk to you. Can we meet? There was an urgency in his voice, something pressing that I couldn't ignore. A week later. The top-floor conference room of a gleaming skyscraper was once again filled with key stakeholders. Why? Why are you suddenly saying the contract is being nullified? Mr. Martin's voice echoed through the conference room. Mr. Anderson had stated earlier, we have decided to postpone the signing of this contract, leaving Mr. Martin with no room to properly recover his composure. All the preparations we've made, this is going to cause immense damage to my company. Thank you for waiting. However, there is something in this contract that absolutely must be clarified. I said calmly but with conviction. Mr. Martin wiped the sweat from his brow with a trembling hand, his unease palpable. The certainty I had gained over the past week bolstered me. What Robert had told me. The evidence I had uncovered. Now is the time to reveal the whole truth. I began to speak, my voice calm yet resolute. Speaking in both English and Japanese, I began to explain. In Clause 7 of this contract, the English version states that all rights will be transferred, but in the Japanese version, it says only a portion of the rights will be transferred. What? Furthermore, in Clause 12 regarding indemnification, the English version stipulates comprehensive guarantees from the Anderson Group, whereas the Japanese version significantly weakens this obligation. Mr. Martin's expression hardened slightly, his composure slipping. This discrepancy places an undue burden on the Anderson Group, exposing it to risks far beyond what was anticipated. Moreover, such differences in interpretation could lead to significant legal disputes in the future. Mr. Anderson quickly scanned the contract, his expression growing serious. Lily, too, carefully reviewed the sections I had highlighted, her face reflecting her growing concern. Mr. Martin, what is the meaning of this? Mr. Martin fumbled for words, visibly uneasy. No, this is just a simple translation error. Is it really? I pressed on, my voice steady. It's hard to believe that so many translation errors could coincidentally occur in a contract of this importance. Could it not have been intentional? A bead of sweat trickled down Mr. Martin's forehead. In the heavy silence that followed, I continued. Moreover, this is identical to the contract that drove my father's company into bankruptcy. Yes, the root cause contract that screwed up my family. I remembered finding it while clearing out my father's empty office, the damning details glaring back at me from the page. My father's company had been a pioneer in developing advanced aerospace alloys. It was the most advanced technology in the world and was said to revolutionize the industry when completed. But the contract in question had an English clause stating all rights and technology would be transferred, while the Japanese version misleadingly claimed only partial rights would be transferred. Even the penalties for breach of contract were starkly different. In English, they were explicitly tied to the total project cost, while the Japanese version vaguely deferred the decision to future discussions. Using this contract as leverage, a massive penalty was imposed, forcing my father's company into bankruptcy. We were left with $50 million in debt. Now, before me lay a contract employing the exact same deceptive tactics. I couldn't allow history to repeat itself. I couldn't let another life be destroyed by such manipulation. My words caused Mr. Martin's expression to change instantly. Shall we go over this contract from the beginning? Clause by clause, comparing the English and Japanese versions in detail. I said, my voice calm but firm. Mr. Martin's face turned pale. My name is Sam. I am the son of Mr. Thompson, the president of Thompson Industries. The company you drove into bankruptcy with your fraudulent contract 7 years ago. The room fell deathly silent. Mr. Martin's eyes widened in shock, a flicker of panic crossing his face. But he quickly replaced it with a cold, mocking smile. Oh, Thompson Industries. But this is nothing more than baseless slander. That was a legitimate contract. Your father's failure is not my responsibility. Is that really the case? The deliberate discrepancies between the English and Japanese versions of the contract. The pressure on interpreters. It's all the same tactics you used 7 years ago. Ridiculous nonsense. Then tell me this. Why did our interpreter suddenly fall ill? Did you apply pressure on Michael to ensure his absence? Ha, what do you know? You don't even have any proof. Listen carefully, Sam. For a mere driver to speak so rudely to the CEO of a global corporation, it's beyond laughable, even as a joke. He pulled out a handkerchief with trembling hands, wiping the sweat from his forehead. Even in his gestures, his unease was apparent. Suddenly, he turned to Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson, is this how your company treats trusted business partners? Allowing baseless accusations from a mere driver? This is a serious defamation issue. Mr. Martin, think about it. If this deal falls apart, what will happen to your company's stock value? How will your investors react? If the media gets hold of this, guilt weighed heavily on me. Was I causing unnecessary trouble for the company? But Mr. Anderson's face remained stern, unyielding. Mr. Martin, please stop threatening my employee. What? You called Sam just a driver, but if his observations are correct, this is a serious issue. I will investigate this thoroughly, even if it means staking the company's future. Mr. Anderson, what about our years of partnership? Partnership is irrelevant. Fraud is fraud. Fine. Then I'll sue this man for defamation. I'll make sure he never rises again. Oh, and I hear your mother is in the hospital, Sam? How will you manage without being able to pay her medical bills? I'll ensure you owe an amount you can never repay, just like your father. His venomous words made my fists clench with anger. Mr. Martin. Jack's voice rang out, trembling. His face had turned pale. Stop this, please. Jack. Stay out of this. That's an order. Mr. Martin's furious shout echoed in the room, his eyes glaring at Jack with the intensity of a coiled serpent. Do you want your family to suffer too? Ha! The threat made Jack's body tremble, but his eyes reflected a newfound determination. Jack struggled to find the words. Tears streamed down his face, large drops falling uncontrollably. I can't betray Sam any longer. His shout was filled with years of bottled-up torment and the resolve to finally break free. Sam! I was the one assigned to your father's company 7 years ago. Jack began, his voice shaking. He looked at me with a face full of regret. I didn't know any better then. I was just a new hire, following my superior's orders. I drafted the English version of that contract. The one with the mistranslations, just like you said, a fraudulent contract. Jack covered his face with his hands, his shoulders shaking as he sobbed. But once I was part of it, there was no turning back. Every single day, I've been haunted by guilt. The conference room fell silent, the weight of Jack's confession hanging heavily in the air. Jack's voice trembled as if he were confessing his sins. They showed me pictures of my family and told me, this is insurance. Mr. Martin threatened me. Every night, I had nightmares. I'd see Sam smile, and then it would disappear. But even so, I did it for my family. Mr. Martin glared at Jack with a face twisted in rage. What nonsense are you spouting? You have no proof. Who would believe your lies? Mr. Martin's voice thundered through the conference room. His mask of composure completely shattered. You dare speak such slander against this company, you traitor? Mr. Martin swept the documents off the desk in a fit of rage, scattering them across the room. The contract flew through the air before settling quietly on the floor. I'll destroy all of you. You and your families. His threatening words hung heavy in the air, but Jack, though trembling, stood his ground with a resolute expression. Your threats, they won't work anymore. Jack said, his voice small but steady. Sam. I'm so sorry. Jack. It's all lies. No one will believe you. I have proof. I said, my voice calm but firm. At that moment, the conference room door opened. I will testify. Robert stood in the doorway, holding a notebook tightly in his hand. Robert, you traitor. Mr. Martin's voice grew even harsher, filled with fury. When I worked for Sam and Mr. Thompson, I was already burdened with my parents' debts. It was an amount I could never repay in just a few years. Robert said, his voice trembling. His eyes were clouded with deep regret. That's when I met Mr. Martin. He told me, I'll cover your debts, and in return, I sold out Mr. Thompson's information. Struggling to continue, Robert paused, his words catching in his throat. I leaked confidential company information, particularly documents related to the aerospace alloy manufacturing technology that was under development. I took photos, little by little, every week. His voice was trembling. It was clear how painful it was for him to admit to betraying the trust placed in him. I gave Mr. Martin everything, Mr. Thompson's schedules, meeting details with clients, and everything. Thanks to that, he was always one step ahead, able to systematically drive the company into a corner. Robert bowed deeply. His back curved under the unbearable burden of his betrayal. The company's secrets were systematically leaked. Critical negotiations failed one after another. And Mr. Thompson was driven to ruin because of my betrayal. Every single day, I was tormented by my conscience. Mr. Thompson was so kind to me, and Sam. To you as well. His voice was thick with tears. No matter how many years have passed, I've never stopped regretting what I did. But when Sam said he looked up to me and modeled his work after mine, I realized how despicable my actions were. I repaid kindness with betrayal. That's enough. My voice was quiet but carried clearly through the room. Robert, that's enough. Robert lifted his face. His eyes filled with a look of surprise. Sam. Robert. I remember everything you did for my family back then. The memories flooded back, vivid and clear. Late-night pickups, working on your days off, driving my mother to the hospital even though it wasn't part of your job. The memories came rushing back, like a kaleidoscope of vivid moments. That kindness wasn't a lie. Even while drowning in debt, even when pushed to the brink. Robert, you've chosen to tell the truth here and now. Large tears streamed down Robert's face, falling freely. That's enough. At those words, the dam broke within Robert. He dropped to his knees, sobbing uncontrollably. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please stand up, Robert, I said, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. Then, with trembling hands, Robert held out a notebook. This was what I had asked him to bring. Earlier, I had requested him to provide any evidence he had of Mr. Martin's misconduct. Sam, this is the notebook. It contains records of everything, meetings with Mr. Martin and details of the fraudulent deals. And everything is documented here. You have something like that? Mr. Martin's voice cracked. And the blood drained from his face. And this too, Jack said, standing up and pulling out his phone. I recorded everything. He played the recordings. And the room filled with Mr. Martin's voice, clear as day, threatening Jack's family. The recordings also captured him coercing Robert. You bastards. Mr. Martin, don't you think it's time to give up? Mr. Anderson stepped forward, standing directly in front of Mr. Martin. Knowing Sam, I'd wager he's recorded this entire conversation as well. I nodded unequivocally. You have no escape. And don't think for a second that you'll get away with a simple settlement. Mr. Martin collapsed into a chair, utterly defeated. His years of deceit had come to an unceremonious end. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Lily in the corner of the room, calling the police. Jack approached me, tears streaming down his face. Jack, I'm really sorry. When your company was in crisis, I should have done something. I could have done something, but I was part of it. It's okay now, I said, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. You told the truth, Jack. That's enough. Choking back sobs, Jack bowed deeply. I'll confess everything. In court, in front of everyone, whatever it takes. By the time we returned to the office, it was past 8 p.m. Though everyone was exhausted from interviews and questioning, Mr. Anderson called me over. I can't thank you enough for what you've done today. Your judgment and sense of justice have saved this company, he said, his tone sincere. Lily nodded in agreement. Which brings me to this proposal. I'd like you to join our corporate planning department. I stared at him in shock, unable to respond immediately. Your work as a driver was exemplary, but your real potential lies in a much broader role. Mr. Anderson continued. At his words, Lily beamed with delight. I'd be so happy if you accepted. Chats in the car just aren't enough anymore. Thank you. I'll gladly accept it. Mr. Anderson nodded in satisfaction, his expression pleased. A few months passed. CEO of major U.S. corporation sentenced for fraud. Read the bold headlines across newspapers and news reports. Details of Mr. Martin's numerous fraudulent schemes and threats against employees were widely exposed, becoming a major story. The extent of Mr. Martin's misdeeds continued to come to light. On a quiet weekend, Jack visited my office. He had received a suspended sentence and had already left his job. The verdict is out, Jack said, his voice tinged with relief. I see. Yeah. They took my circumstances into account, but this is how it should be. His expression was free of hesitation. He looked refreshed, as if finally unburdened from the weight he had carried for years. What will you do now? Actually, I've decided to work for an NGO, Jack said, a bit sheepishly. They're focused on providing financial education in developing countries. I want to use my experience, this time, to help people. His words brought a smile to my face. That suits you. It's a great choice. Thanks. It's because of you, Sam. You gave me the courage to be honest with myself. Outside the window, a gentle breeze carried the fresh scent of spring. Let's meet again. Yeah, next time with pride. We shook hands firmly before Jack strode away with confidence. After transferring to the corporate planning department, my days became a whirlwind of change. Sam, this proposal is fantastic. One after another, my ideas for new projects were adopted, steadily boosting the company's performance. I used the hands-on experience I gained during my time as a driver, combined with the theoretical knowledge I acquired at Oxford. I found great fulfillment in a role where I could utilize both. As expected of Sam, Lily exclaimed with a radiant smile. We now worked on the same floor, side by side. This makes 3 of your proposals approved. It's thanks to your support, Lily. Don't be so modest, she said, puffing her cheeks slightly in mock frustration. Even such small gestures had started to feel endearing. Hey, do you have any plans this Saturday? Her sudden invitation made my heart race. No, not really. Then, a faint blush appeared on her cheeks. There's an interesting exhibition at the art museum. If you'd like. Her words made my face warm as well. I'd love to. On the weekend. The museum date felt almost surreal. This painting is beautiful, Lily said, stopping in front of a particular piece. In the dim light of the gallery, her profile seemed to glow softly. The painting's title was Arrogance. It depicted a figure in opulent clothing, staring blankly at something beyond the canvas. Hey, Sam. Yes? I used to be so arrogant. Lily began in a quiet voice. I thought money was everything. I believed that people's feelings could be solved with money. But that night, when you helped me in my time of need, something began to change. She turned to face me slowly. Meeting you has truly been the best thing that's happened to me. At that moment, my heart pounded loudly, as if all my emotions were spilling out at once. Lily, me too. I faltered, struggling to find the words. But there was no need to hide anymore. I love you too. My voice trembled. But the feelings behind it were unwavering. Tears welled up in Lily's eyes, spilling down her cheeks. Yet her expression was radiant with happiness. I love you too. In the quiet corner of the gallery, we held hands tightly. On Monday, Mr. Anderson summoned me to his office. It was almost certainly about Lily. Sam, I know about you and my daughter. Or rather, Lily was so giddy last night that I couldn't help but ask. He said with a gentle smile, noticing my tension. I want you to know that I fully support your relationship, Mr. Anderson. Anne? He stood, looking out the window. Not immediately, but I'm getting older. I need someone I can trust to take this company into the future. Yes. I believe you're the right person for the job. What? No, I'm not. I'm nowhere near ready for that. Sam, I have no doubt you can do it. I can see it clearly. I want you to lead this company alongside Lily. I understand. I'll do my best. There was a profound sense of trust in Mr. Anderson's words. The rest of the day felt like a dream. The idea of being entrusted with the company's future seemed surreal. Could this really be happening? That weekend, late on Saturday night, my phone rang. Sam, I'm sorry to disturb you at this hour. Robert's voice on the other end was uneasy. Robert, is something wrong? Yes, it's about Mr. Thompson. My heart skipped a beat. My father. I heard from someone that Mr. Thompson has been living in a facility near Mount Rocco in Kobe. My hands began to tremble. 11 years. The years without seeing my father came crashing down all at once. Is that true? It's not confirmed, but I thought you should know. Please tell me the address. My voice shook with urgency. After a brief hesitation, Robert slowly gave me the address. I'm going right now. What? Right now? Yes. Right now. I'm going to see my father." After hanging up, I immediately called Lily. When I explained the situation, she quickly understood. "Be safe, Sam. I hope with all my heart that you'll be able to see him." Her warm words gave me the strength to move forward, and I set off in the car. As I sped along the highway in the dead of night, a torrent of emotions flooded through me. These were anger, loneliness, and a deep, aching sorrow. Why did he leave without saying anything? Why did he abandon us? How much pain and loneliness must my mother have endured? Streetlights blurred into streaks of light outside the car window, each one pulling forth a memory of my father. "You are my son," he once said proudly. The beaming smile he wore when I showed him my Oxford acceptance letter. The confident figure he cut when the company was thriving. All of it vanished when the bankruptcy struck. "Why, Dad?" I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. But now, I would finally see him again. I would be able to say everything I'd been holding onto for these 11 years. By the time I arrived at my destination, dawn was beginning to break. The facility stood nestled on the mountainside of Mount Rocco, a small and quiet retreat. At the nurse's station, I gave my father's name. The staff looked momentarily surprised. "Mr. Thompson? He went out for a walk earlier this morning. He should be on the mountain trail." I headed in the direction they indicated. I walked slowly along the mist-covered trail, the sunlight filtering through the trees creating a breathtakingly ethereal scene. And then, in the distance, I saw a solitary figure. He looked thinner now with hair that had turned white. But there was no mistaking him. "Dad!" My voice trembled. At the sound, my father turned slowly toward me. "Sam!" The moment our eyes met, tears began streaming down his face. "Is it really you?" "Dad!" I was running. As the gap between us closed, a flood of emotions surged through me. The joy of seeing him again. The loneliness of being left behind. The burning need to know why. And the anger I had held on to all these years. Why did you leave without saying anything?" I stopped in front of him, shouting the question that had haunted me. "Do you know how much my mom suffered? How much I suffered?" My words trailed off. Before me, my father bowed deeply. "I'm sorry. I'm so terribly sorry," he said, his voice stripped of its former authority. He looked frail, his body visibly weakened. When he wavered on his feet, I instinctively caught him and guided him to a nearby bench. I bought a bottle of green tea from a vending machine and handed it to him. He struggled to open the cap, so I took it from him and twisted it open myself. Taking a small sip, he began speaking in a low, murmuring voice. "You already know how Brightfield set me up, don't you? I saw it on the news." "Yeah. I know everything now." At the time, I began to realize what Mr. Martin was doing. The discrepancies between the English and Japanese versions of the contract. The unnatural deals. It all started to make sense. My father slowly raised his face. His eyes carried the weight of deep regret. But, by then, it was too late. He asked me, "What's more important, your family's lives or the company?" Back then, there were frequent accidents involving people who crossed him. I knew he wasn't bluffing. Something like that really happened. It was exactly the kind of thing he would say. Both Robert and Jack had fallen victim to his schemes. A soft breeze blew through. Amid rustling the trees quietly, my father continued his story. "The only way to protect you and your mother was for me to disappear. Mr. Martin truly intended to harm you both. So, I had no choice. But why? Why didn't you tell us?" I couldn't hold back my emotions any longer. "We're family. How could you carry that burden alone? Do you know how much I hated you for it?" My voice cracked, rising with emotion. Tears streamed uncontrollably down my face. "When you disappeared, Do you have any idea how much we suffered? How lonely we were? Do you? My father remained silent, absorbing my words. Tears streamed down his face, too. I know. I know. Every single day, I thought about you both. I regretted not telling you the truth over and over again. He covered his face with his hands, his shoulders shaking with sobs. But I couldn't go back. All I could do was check from afar to make sure you and your mother were safe, and before I knew it, so much time had passed. The morning sunlight bathed us both. Sam, I'm truly sorry. You can hate me all you want. I caused you and your mother so much hardship and worry. He bowed deeply again. His once imposing figure now seemed so small, stripped of its former dignity. Dad. I slowly approached him. It's okay now. I don't hate you anymore. I placed my hand gently on his shoulder. What? He looked up. His eyes filled with confusion. It's enough now. I'm sorry for all the things I said earlier. The years of pent-up feelings inside me began to melt away. I understand now. You were trying to protect us. I just wish you had told us. But, I spoke slowly, carefully choosing my words. I know you were doing your best. You were scared of Mr. Martin, and you thought of us the whole time. In the distance, the sound of birdsong reached our ears. As the morning mist began to lift, a father and son sat facing each other. Dad, let's go home. What? My mom's been wanting to see you too. At those words, tears once again streamed down my father's face. But I don't deserve to. That's not true, I said, shaking my head firmly. You were trying to protect us. We understand that now. My mom's been worrying about you all this time too. So, I took a deep breath and spoke from my heart. Come home. We've missed you. At that moment, my father embraced me tightly. I'm so sorry. Thank you. His shoulders shook with sobs. I couldn't hold back my own tears any longer. Welcome back, Dad. On the sunlit trail, bathed in the gentle morning light, a father and son held each other, pouring 11 years' worth of emotions into that embrace. The sunlight filtering through the trees tenderly illuminated the scene. The path ahead was filled with challenges. The future of Anderson Group, a life with Lily, and everything else will be full of challenges. But I no longer had any doubts. As long as I kept the feelings of those dear to me close, I could move forward with steady steps. That was the most important lesson this long journey had taught me. From now on, let's continue together, Lily said. Her words were met with warm smiles from the whole family. In the quiet afternoon living room, the story of a new family was about to begin.